I actually put this onto this Charizard figurine as a negative part. That hinge is here again, just on another little cube that I've got. And I can literally put that negative part onto any other STL. It's really, really easy to do. And to my surprise, I haven't seen much out there for the use of negative parts. What I have seen is some people using these negative parts to make flexible joints. You can actually see the two parts like interlocking. I didn't actually design that flexi cutter. This actual negative volume, I just found that online. And you can make these cutters yourself if you want certain features of someone else's design. We can use this method to create hinges. This is the shape here of my negative part. And then I add it to whatever part I want to add that hinge to, hit slice, and then all of a sudden, it just makes me that hinge exactly in the spot that I asked it to do, right? I didn't have to edit the STL at all, which is really hard to do if you want to use like Blender or some other program to go and add it in there. Look how easy it is to add these to the Charizard. So say I deleted one of these, right? I can go and add it again and literally click on it and just move it into the right space that I want. There's my cutter for the hinge. I can hit slice, and then that is just going to put those three hinges exactly where I had them. And I haven't wrecked the model. Like the STL of the Charizard is still exactly how it was before, but I've just added the hinges. So this is a Charizard, just the model that I've downloaded. And I've got this negative volume here. That one actually has the head of the Charizard in there. How cool is that, right? And that is the exact same concept that we use for the hinge. So I want to show you how to actually make these as well. But let's start off easy. Let me show you just how to use someone else's design. So if I look at the flexible links, what you end up doing is just going to online models and looking for flexi cutters. They're popular enough that they've been given this term like cutter for flexi toys, flexi cutter. They're just STLs, right? And to prove that to you, what we have to do is go into our objects list. You can see I've got the seal. I've got this like, it looks like a circular disc or torus or whatever that they've cut into it. So I'm going to delete that. I don't need that. I don't need two of the cutters. I can just use one of them. And I'm going to click on that, right click, and go change type to part. And you can see that it's just a normal part, right? And now if I click on my entire assembly and then separate by objects, now I've got that as a separate piece. So I could delete the seal. Now I've just got this guy. And look, it's like a really weird shape. It's actually the inverse of the cutter. It's the subtracted kind of version of it. Like there's a rectangle around it and then they've subtracted that feature from it. I can right click this and go export as one STL. And that is going to be what I'm going to export as my negative flexi cutter. Yeah. So when I do that, I've got the STL that is a repeatable unit that I can use over and over again. So all I need to do to actually use it is go to any STL, right? Now I've just got my seal. Then I'm going to open up this one, put my negative flexi cutter that we just put in there, right? And then drag it over. Now I might need to resize it or whatnot, like depending on like what result I get, but I'm going to put it in the right spot where I want that join. And then I've just got to hold control and click on both of these parts because these are both separate right now, these objects. And then I right click on it and go merge. And you can see here, it puts them both under an assembly. And now I can make that a negative part. You have to actually merge them for it to be a negative part. You can't make a single object by itself a negative part. And that's as simple as that. Literally, it's that easy. And you can find a lot of these flexi cutters online, right? So that's flexi cutters. Here's one for the twisty one. Have you guys seen these things? This cutter is making any object that twistable kind of play toy thing. Oh, that's cool. Yeah. So this is the concept of negative volume. Next is I've made this hinge. This was a design that I made on Onshape for a print in place hinge. I'm in Onshape now and you can see I've got this like, let me hide it actually. I've got this normal print in place hinge here. Every time I design that, I need to go through this process. First, I make this sketch here, like this weird sketch, right? Then I extrude it the whole way. I'm going to cut it in the middle because I'm making room for the other side, that purple part. And then I'm going to create these little spikes. So then I've made one spike here and then I basically mirror it to the other side. That's what I do there. And then I have to do that every time I want to design it. So if I wanted to put this on a Charizard, what do? I got to import the STL, cut it, add the sketches again, add the features again. It takes ages. Like seriously, this takes a very long time. And what I can do now is say, hang on a minute, let me create a negative volume. So all I did was sketch this shape, hit one button called extrude after you've drawn that shape. Yes. Then all I did was use this Boolean commands. If I had to redo this part, let me delete that. You go to Boolean, click on it, you go to subtract, and we're going to subtract with certain tools. That's the terminology that Onshape uses. Whatever you're going to cut with is the tool, like you're using a knife. So I'm going to cut with the box, both boxes, and I'm going to cut into the target, which is this shape that I drew. When I click that, nothing looks like it happens because I've got keep tools on. So I'm keeping the boxes. But if I go and hide them now, you can see that I've got those cutouts. Yeah. And this cutout is actually quite thin here. See that? If I select both sides of that, they're like 0.2 millimeters apart. So it's making a very thin feature in there, but it's capturing all the detail of my hinge. Right click on that, export, and that is going to be my negative part. So I can just drag this in. This is exactly what I did here. I drag that into there. And what I would always recommend is once you make this part, don't go print a massive Charizard on it. Test that the hinge works first. So you got these two pieces. They come in separately. So I've just got my test piece here and the actual negative part. Hold control, right click on both of them and hit merge. Now I've got the cube and that. So I can just move this over that and I can right click on my negative volume, change type to negative part. That's it. Slice, and then I'm done. Look how quick it is. And it's the same process with the Charizard, except I've just downloaded a random model online. You can add this anywhere. And the cool thing about this is that I can change the angle of this and I didn't have to like redesign it on Onshape or anything. I've designed it once and that's it. I'll make STL for the hinge available to you guys. You can look at it in the school community, which is free. But basically, you just make it a negative volume, put it wherever you want. It actually doesn't matter what the feature is. This is the weird thing with this, right? The feature could be a hinge with multiple pieces, could be a very simple part. Yeah, complicated. It doesn't matter. Let's actually reverse engineer something now. So I've done the Charizard here. I imported our Charizard here like this. This is how it came. It was one part. It had this like error. I wasn't even sure what it was, but I just kept going and it was fine. I drew my sketch of this part and then I extrude it. With the extrude, I'm literally just making a cube around the part. Hit new, and that is my negative part that I'm going to be using to cut out that Charizard. Then I just cut the base of it off here just to make sure that it was an open face. And then I used Boolean. Now with Boolean, I was cutting away the Charizard away from the negative part. And then I click OK. And it had this like little hole in it. So it didn't cut everything. So I just hid that, hide the Charizard. And you can see I've got this cutout of the Charizard there. And if I go and edit the appearance and put the transparency up, you can see that I've got the negative or the internal volume there. And then it cuts out that Charizard, right, when I slice it. And that's all from like someone else's design. So all I did was sketch a box around it and then use the Boolean command to cut it out. That was it. And I changed it to a negative volume. That could be a hinge, it could be a complex part, it could be a texture, it could be anything. You could get really creative with it. Can I like cut multiples of these out, like on angles? Like it totally changes like your design workflow. Now you're just like playing with like negative tools, negative parts. Can I do this? I don't know. I have no idea. Let's just try it. Will that work? Maybe not. Maybe I need one more cut here. You get what I'm saying? Like it's changing the game a little bit. If you guys have ever used like Fusion 360 or SolidWorks or stuff like that, when you design, you have like design libraries of like reusable objects. And usually they're like nuts and bolts and screws and stuff like that. You know, bearings or whatever, because that's what engineers would commonly use. But now we could have like design libraries of like different joints. It could be like, oh, this joint, this negative part is this big. It gives you 45 degrees of motion of angle from the neutral axis. Whereas this one is a flexi joint. It allows like 2 degrees of freedom, like, you know, rotation in both directions or 3 directions or whatever. So you could have like design libraries, but you could even have designing tools or design tools that make negative parts, and they could be parametrically designed. This hinge is based on a box. That box was parametrically designed. So that means the hinge or the negative part is parametrically designed as well. Because like in my design, this has a certain diameter. It has a certain length. I made 3 segments, but it could be 4. It could be a different angle here. So that allows different range of motion. Have a play with this and let me know what you think.